Hi, everyone. This is Andrea Richards Scott with ARS Professional Development. I am the author of 3 books, Keys to the Kingdom, A Manual for Success in Today's World, as well as Purpose Quest and Purpose Guide. I'm also the founder and director of ARS Professional Development, and so I have the 7 steps that I created, and I'm going to walk you through the 7 steps today. And just as an overview, the 7 steps are seeing, separating, speaking, sharpening, systemizing, sharing, and strengthening. And I'll go through all of those with you. So basically, step 1 in the system is seeing, and it really is all about vision. So when we talk about vision, we want to talk about getting clarity about your role identity. So if you remember the story in The Wizard of Oz where each of these characters went looking for something that they thought they didn't have, only to find out that it was already inside of them, I think pretty much that's how it is with us. In order to be successful, we have to recognize that the greatness is already inside of us, and we have to figure out what role we're going to play in the world and how we're going to bring this into our lives. So what is our role in our lives, and what is our role in the world? Another piece of it is that we have to spend time developing our gifts. Everyone, I believe, has a unique gift that they've been given. Some of us can sing. That's not me. Some of us can write. Some of us lead or cook. We have all kinds of gifts that we can use. It's really your responsibility to take that gift, the one that God has given you, and develop it into something that will add value to the people that you decide to serve. Another piece of vision is putting extra effort into developing your purpose. Now, I know a lot of times when I coach people, this is one of those sticking points where people either know their purpose and they're going after it, but there are a lot of people who still, no matter how old they are, have not figured out what their purpose is. And I think it might be one of the most challenging and rewarding things that you ever do is sit down, take the time to figure out your purpose. Now, I think, contrary to popular belief where people think your purpose is presented to you, I believe it's something that you must seek out. It's something that you have to look for cues in your life or clues in your life of what that purpose might be. And oftentimes it comes out of a situation of adversity, or it comes out of a situation where you did something, you were able to overcome all odds, and all of a sudden that is what it is. Or maybe this is something that keeps showing up in your life over and over again, so you start to see some kind of common thread. You start to see some patterns emerging. But it takes work. Sometimes it takes a little bit of effort to really try to figure out what your purpose is. And also, take time out for understanding yourself. I think, as busy as this world is, oftentimes we don't spend a lot of time focused on ourselves. We're focused on everybody else. We're nurturing other people. We're working for other people. Or we're doing things to kind of move ourselves forward, try to be successful for our families and that sort of thing, but we don't spend time with ourselves. And so you can do things like personality tests. There's the DISC and the Myers-Briggs, and there are a whole host of other personality tests that you can use to figure out your own personality and what it is you're all about. In addition to that, you can do things like journaling. One of the things that I love to do is just sit down in a quiet place and ask a question and just be silent and be still and wait for an answer to come. And often I'll get that answer and I'll start to journal about it. So that might be a technique that works for you. Another thing that you can do is focus on defining values. The core values are extremely important. I really believe it's what drives us, it's what we're made up of, and it impacts our choices on a regular basis. The values that you have dictate what you are willing to do and what you're willing to not do. And when you understand those top 5 values that you have, you see how they're aligned with your purpose and your profession. So in other words, using your values as your foundation ensures that you accept work that you resonate with. So we're talking about, turning your passion into profits. You have to make sure that all of that is aligned, and I think it all comes together at the values. The next thing is understanding your guiding passion. What is it that guides you? It's important to have your passion, your purpose, and your passion is what drives you when the going gets tough. I think a lot of times when we're trying to do something, if it gets tough and we're not really passionate about it, we can easily get rid of it or say, oh, that really wasn't that important anyway. But when you understand what guides you, you're able to make better decisions about what you will and will not do, what you will and will not accept, what you will and will not go after. And then make time for prioritizing your choices. Take the opportunity to look at all the choices that are in front of you and weigh all your options. Prioritize them in terms of which ones are going to get you closer to your major goals. And then don't just prioritize them and leave it right there. Actually take action to start making those things come true. So that was step one. Again, step one is all about vision. Step two is about separating, and separating is about targeting. And when I talk about targeting, I'm really talking about really understanding what it is that you are doing and also who it is that you are serving. So the first would be focus on market segmentation. As you consider what you are doing, profiting from your passion, you must decide what you have to offer and who it is that you serve. And you want to focus on defining that individual, because the more you can define them, the easier it's going to be for you to find them. Next, you want to understand consumer markets. Now, I understand that some of us will be selling or marketing to consumers, and some of us will be marketing to companies. So I'll talk about that as well. So understanding consumer markets. When you have a product or service, you can either do business to consumer, B2C, or business to business. If your focus is on individual customers, it's really important for you to understand what motivates them to buy. It's important that you do your research and find out as much as you can about your target market. When you're thinking about your target market, you want to select your ideal customer. And I think it's really, really important that you know what the ideal customer looks like. You should be able to see that person. You should be able to visualize them. You should know what kind of income bracket they're in, what they do for recreation. You should know as much as you can about your target market, because if you know your ideal customer, when they walk into the room or when they show up, you know that is the person that you want to serve. As far as understanding your commercial markets, really in B2C or business to commercial, you really want to focus on selling and B2B rather. And B2B, you want to make sure that you focus on understanding what that company needs. You want to understand what this company does. You want to research your industry. You want to be very, very clear about how you can market to that business. And just like I spoke about understanding your ideal customer, with companies, we want to understand what that company persona is all about. You want to be able to identify and define your ideal business, and as you develop this company persona, you want a detailed description. You really want to understand everything about them, what their buying habits are, who makes the decisions, and all sorts of things like that, because that will enable you to target your business more effectively. You also want to determine how to separate yourself. And what I mean by that is that you have to know what your unique selling proposition is. This is the thing that makes you stand out from the crowd. And it may take you a while to figure out what that is. Sometimes it just seems like we're doing the same thing somebody else is doing, but God created you as a unique individual. So you have to try to figure out what is it that distinguishes you from everybody else who does what you do. You have to be able to stand out in your field. And then with separating, we also want to clearly define our offer, right? So what this is all about is making sure that you know what it is that you're offering to the world. You know how to add value on top of maybe a basic service or product, What is it that you're offering that's different from everybody else? And you have to get that clarity, because until you get that clarity, you will not be able to articulate that or share that or even market that to your target audience. Step number 3 is speaking. And when I talk about speaking, I'm talking about getting your message out there. What is the message that you are giving to the world, to your target market, to those people who are interested in what you have to offer? And we start with sharing your compelling story. And your compelling story really is that story about what it is that brought you to the place that you are today, what it is that allowed you to create the expertise so that you can then offer this valuable service or product to someone else. Everyone has a story, and it usually starts with some sort of challenge or obstacle, and it shows where you were able to navigate or overcome that challenge, and it describes how you were able to be successful, and maybe even details how you are uniquely positioned to help other people do the same thing. Your target market can really benefit from your story, so don't be shy in sharing that story. I know that I've worked with individuals who have all kinds of stories, and particularly challenging or difficult stories that they don't want to share with anybody else. But the truth of the matter is that the more you're able to share that, the more people will resonate with you. People will start to see you as a real individual who has flaws, but also has the ability to overcome those challenges as well. Spread your mission and your message. It's really, I think, important that you do that, because you were created for a reason. It's your responsibility to articulate your mission and your message so those who need to hear what you have to say will benefit from it. But before you can start to do that, before you can start to spread that message, you really have to be clear. You have to be extremely clear about what it is that you are doing and what it is that you're trying to accomplish. For example, if you can get your message down as succinctly as possible, maybe into 7 words or so, then you can quickly and easily share that message wherever you go. For example, my message is helping you to turn your passion into profits. It's very simple, very straightforward. If you hear that, you pretty much know what it's all about. Think about how you can take your message and your mission and shrink it down to, no more than a few minutes at most, but certainly if you can get it down to about 7 words where you can use a soundbite, that will be helpful as well. Watch your self-talk. I think this is one of the most important things that I can share with you is really be careful how you talk to yourself. We have this internal saboteur, this gremlin that often tells us what we can't do. If you ever notice it doesn't come and pump us up and tells us all these great things about what we can do. It often tells us what we can't do. It often kind of tries to talk us out of taking big risks or taking chances, and it's audio that's playing over and over and over in our head. It's kind of like a broken record making a groove in the vinyl. It's that voice that's constantly telling us that we can't do it or to play it safe and not take these chances. It's that voice that beats you up. In fact, it speaks to you worse than you would probably speak to your worst enemy. It's often harsh on us and demoralizing. But in order to be successful, you really have to focus on the positive. You have to push past your fears. You have to not let anything stop you from making forward progress. You have to make up in your mind that no matter what it looks like, you are going to stay the course and you're not going to let anything hold you back. And so you're going to have to find ways to combat that negative self-talk with something positive. Find ways to boost your confidence. It is important that you are able to articulate your message. Whether you're speaking to individuals or you're talking to a group, you have to exude confidence. But the best way I think there is to improve on your confidence level is to increase your skill. The more skilled you are at something, the more confidence you're going to have doing it. So that means that you have to practice, practice, practice. Take every single opportunity you can to practice. If you have a networking opportunity, practice connecting with people. Seek out some speaking engagements. You may want to speak for free or get a fee-based opportunity, but you want to put yourself out there, give yourself opportunities to exercise that so that you build up your confidence. The more that you do that, the more you put yourself out there, the more confidence you will gain. Consider using social media. I know in my practice, a lot of my clients kind of resist social media, but there is so much to be gained from using social media. It allows you to connect with people. It allows you to get your message out to more people. Facebook allows you to connect with your friends and your fans and share information that they may be interested in. I don't know if you've used Google+, but Google+ is a great way for you to connect with people who have common passions as you do, but you can share some information with them. Twitter allows you to post real-time perspectives, and YouTube, don't overlook YouTube because it allows you to post videos where you can broadcast information that may be of interest to individuals in your target market. One of the things that you may notice now that YouTube is owned by Google, one of the things you notice is that YouTube really is a search engine. I often go into YouTube and I type in how to, and I put in whatever the topic is, and up pops these videos that I can then use to figure out whatever situation I'm in. So think about what it is that you do. Think about how you can use social media. Think about how you can use YouTube to do the very same thing. Put a channel together and then provide all of this content and information that sets you apart as an expert and allows people to come to you when they're looking for information. Find ways to share your expertise. There are all kinds of ways of sharing. I just talked about some, but you can also write or a print or an ebook. You can do an audio podcast. You can write articles. You can blog. You can do newsletters. You can create media in iTunes. You can create apps for Apple or Android. You can appear on talk shows. You can be a guest on radio or television. You can do speaking in a public environment. You can host teleseminars or webinars similar to what I'm doing right now. You can deliver live training and workshops. The list goes on and on. The opportunities are only limited by your imagination. So start to think about what things can I do to put myself out there, gain that exposure, and to share my expertise. Utilize the tools of the trade. There are so many items out there that you can use for promoting your business, whether you're using business cards or flyers or company stationery. Even your email signature gives you an opportunity to promote what's going on for you. You can even use promotional items like pens and T-shirts and cups and mugs and things like that. Your website, posters, signage, all kinds of things. If you're a speaker, you want to have a one sheet. And if you have products, you want to have data sheets. You want to have media kits if you're going to be interacting with the media. So think about all the different tools that are out there that are available for you that you can use to get the word out about your particular business. Step 4 is all about sharpening. And sharpening is a refining process. This is where you make yourself a better person. You increase your expertise, you make yourself better in some way. So learn how to overcome procrastination. I think this is one of the biggest things that holds us back when we're talking about taking our passion and turning it into profits. In other words, becoming a business owner or a solopreneur or that sort of thing. One of the biggest things that I find with the clients that I coach is that there is some level of procrastination sometimes. And often procrastination might come as a result of a variety of things like fear or maybe just being tired if you're working a full-time job and when you come home you just don't have the energy or the drive to do what it is that you need to do. Well, I think procrastination is the greatest thief of our time. It just allows us to just lose so much valuable time, and then we feel guilty about it because we should be accomplishing more. If you're prone to procrastination, you'll need to make every effort you can to put an action plan in place. And not only just put the plan in place, but actually take action on that plan. Instead of going home and watching TV, perhaps you can go for a walk to increase your energy. Instead of spending hours and hours on the internet, maybe you can sit down with a journal and flesh out your dream and put together a plan that you can start to execute to make your dreams more viable. You know, I often say if you were to eliminate television for an hour a day. That would be 365 hours per year. Think about what you could accomplish with 365 hours of focus just on your passion, just on your purpose, just on the business. Think about that. And then practice SMART goal setting. Now, we've often heard the acronym for SMART is specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-specific. So you want to select some stretch goals. You want to select goals that challenge you and enable you to live your heart's desire. Think big. Think really big about your vision and create goals that are in alignment with your purpose. Get a handle on time management. This is another area that I often find that my clients struggle with. How do you fit everything that you have to do in this short 24-hour period of time that you have? And then I want to ask the question, well, how does Bill Gates do it? How does Oprah Winfrey do it? How did Steve Jobs do it? How do the people who are extremely successful fit all of that in? Well, I think the secret is really understanding how to manage your day. And if you've read the book, First Things First by Stephen Covey, he gives us a clue. And if you look at your life, for example, as a pickle jar, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but the rocks are those big priorities, those things that you want to have in your life. Stephen Covey would call that the urgent and the important items. Anything that gets you closer to your goal, what you want to do is take action on those, tackle those, get those done right away. And then you have sand. If you put sand in your jar, then these are things that are maybe urgent but not so important. These are things that you don't necessarily have to do. These are often interruptions or distractions from your major purpose. In fact, these are things that you can actually delegate to someone else. And then if you think about adding something else to your jar, it seems like your jar is pretty full. You have your rocks, you have your pebbles in there. It seems like now your jar is pretty full. But the truth of the matter is you can always add something to your jar, and maybe these would be the pebbles. So you put the pebbles in your jar, and these would be the things that are not urgent, but they're really important. You want to schedule these things. And then anything that is a distraction, anything that's mindless, anything that really is just busy work, you want to just eliminate those from your life. Those are the not urgent and not important things. And so when you look at it, you're really focusing on that part of the quadrant that Stephen Covey talked about, the urgent and the important items. These are things that you tackle. The not urgent but important things, those are the things that you schedule. These things, the things you should schedule, will be things like relationship building, strategic planning, building your expertise, continuous improvement, those kinds of things. You put those on your calendar, and when the time comes, you actually implement them, but you don't necessarily have to focus on them right away. And so, again, if you looked at your life as a pickle jar and you put those rocks in first, those are your priorities. Those are the big, major things that are going on in your life. You put those in first and you tackle them right away. Then you put in your pebbles. These are the things that you're going to schedule. You put those in next. And it seems like you don't have much room, but there's always more room. You put in the sand. Those are the things that you would delegate to someone else. And then the final thing would be water. You put the water in, and those are the things that you would eliminate. Now think about this. If you were to put the water in the jar first, if you were to pour water in the jar, you would not be able to fit the rocks, the pebble, or the sand in your jar because there would not be enough room. And so think about that in terms of your day. If you start your day off focused on trivia and mindless activity and busy work, what you will find is that you end up having no time left for those major important things in your life. So that's one quick and easy way to manage your time. It really is all about prioritizing what's important, tackling those things and scheduling the others, and then either delegating or eliminating everything else. Focus on building relationships. If you're a solopreneur or if you're in business by yourself, it always feels lonely, like there's no one else to support you. However, you really want to focus on building relationships. It can get really, really lonely when you're in business by yourself. So you have to figure out what you need to do in order to find people that you can get to support you. You need to nurture your current network, and you need to make sure that you find other people that can support you as well. Your network should include people who provide value to you, but you should also provide value to them. It's kind of a quid pro quo. You want to nurture your network by keeping in touch on a regular basis and coming up with a systematic approach that you cycle through your database in maybe a 30-day cycle. You want to call those people that you are trying to enhance relationships with, but you don't really want to call them to ask them for stuff. You want to always try to figure out how do you add value to them. So, for example, you could be a connector. You might take two people who have a need to be connected with each other. Maybe someone is looking for a graphic designer or something like that. You be the connector, and people will start to notice that after a while and see you as a valuable resource. And then you have those relationships that you're simply just trying to maintain those relationships. So you call or email them just to check up on them or maybe provide them with updates and things like that. But be really, really careful to be authentic in your communications. I think people can always sense when someone is not being authentic or when they're being a phony. So focus on building your relationships. Develop your communication skills. You know, it's really important, I think, to have great oral and written communication skills, particularly as a business owner and particularly as a solopreneur, because I think there's so much that we have to do ourselves. And so if this is an area that needs work for you, don't delay on this. Effective communications are vital to the success of your business. You're going to need to be able to communicate effectively, to speak to individuals or to speak to groups. You need to be able to master things like copywriting so that you can communicate to your audience in articles and blogs and newsletters and things like that. If you ever have to be on camera, whether you're going for a TV interview or maybe you're doing a YouTube video, you have to be able to communicate and articulate yourself on video, on camera as well. And you need to be able to do all of this with confidence. So working on these areas will really benefit your business because the more people trust you, the more that they will come to you and be willing to work with you. The more you present yourself in a positive light, the more you're going to attract those kind of people that you're looking for. Encourage teamwork. And so team, as we have heard in the past, is an acronym for together, everyone accomplishes more. And I think this is especially important when you're working by yourself, when you don't have a lot of people surrounding you. You have to figure out how to create these virtual teams. And your team can consist of people like a coach, accountability partners, mentors, virtual assistants, referral partners, or any individual in your network who is supportive, who will help you to build your business. And again, as I mentioned before, it's always about what's in it for them, so you have to really think about what value are you adding to them. Seek continuous improvement. This is all about making sure that you get training on a regular basis. Never rest on your laurels. I mean, pretty much what you're doing today, coming to a webinar, is an example of always seeking more information, seeking continuous improvement, that sort of thing. No matter how successful you've been in the past, you're going to have to keep improving just to keep up. When you think about what's going on in electronics right now, I remember back in the day I had a PDA, and I used to think about, wow, what if this PDA could make phone calls? Wow, look at where we are today with iPhones and all these smartphones and things that we have. That was a dream back then, but it is a reality today. The person who created the Palm Pilot, if they did not shift gears, they'll be left behind, and it's pretty much like that for us. No matter how successful we've been in the past, if we don't pay attention to what's going on around us, if we're not continually improving our situation and getting additional knowledge and using that to build our expertise, we will get left behind. Step 5 is systemizing, and it's all about processes. So we want to develop appropriate systems. And I think one of the biggest problems or challenges that business owners have is that they're doing everything themselves, and they really don't have the right systems in place. And so one of the best ways to grow your business is to develop systems. And you do this by taking a look at those areas that you're constantly doing over and over, these things that are creating time hogs for you, where you find yourself maybe checking email all day instead of really working on the core piece of your business. And so what you can do is look at those areas in your business that are a challenge for you and see how you create systems. Maybe it's your invoicing system. Maybe you have clients, and every time you have to invoice them, you recreate the wheel. Anytime you see yourself recreating the wheel over and over again, that is an ideal place where you will want to develop a system. The way that you develop that system is simply by tracking and documenting what you're doing, and then keep repeating it over and over again. I think the really great thing about developing a system is that when you get to the point where other people can support you, maybe you hire someone on a contract basis, maybe you have a full-time employee, or maybe even a virtual assistant, you can share the system with them, and you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time training them because the system is already in place. Identify business areas. So if you are taking your passion and you're turning it into profits, what you're really wanting to do is look at the different business areas that you're going to need to systemize. And I think a lot of times when we start businesses, we kind of fly by the seat of our pants, particularly early stages of business. And so it's really important to look at those areas of business that you really need to systemize. Maybe it's email processing. Maybe it's the way you take in new clients. Maybe it's the way you close a deal. Maybe it's the way you create your products or your services. But look at what it is that you need and start to make those systems, and do it early on. Make these systems repeatable. And so there are a few systems. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but there's a few systems I suggest. What does your leadership system look like? And this is all about your calendar and, you know, how you're managing your time and your goal setting and your planning and your scheduling and things like that. How does all of that work together? And how do you account for personal activities that come in during the time that you may be working? How do you manage those, and how do you keep your personal life and your business life in balance? Another system you might want to look at is operations. And this is stuff like if you're selling products, maybe you have inventory, maybe there's payroll or human resources or procurement or production. So if you have a situation in your business where you're dealing with other people, you're going to want to look at how your operations runs as well. And marketing, I think most of us can agree that this is an essential piece of our business. How are you going to systemize it? What does your target marketing look like? What about your messaging? What about your branding? What about the customer experience? What about how do you build trust? These are all really important things to think about in systemizing, because if you systemize, for example, the customer experience, if your customer experiences you the same way over and over again, that's part of your branding. Think about McDonald's, for example, or think about any major brand. When you go into that location, you can expect that you're going to get the same thing. I'm thinking about Chipotle. If you walk into any Chipotle anywhere, you're going to get the same experience. You're going to see the same layout and that sort of thing. Do your customers or do your clients or do the people that you serve get the same experience from you over and over again? So what does that look like? Systemize your fulfillment. How do you get your product or service to your market? Whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're an author, whether you are a speaker, whether you are in an entertainment field, how do you deliver your products and services to your audience? Find a way to systemize that as well. And so this includes things like delivery and customer satisfaction and follow-up. How do you fulfill that? And then finally, developing your own system. So it's really important for you to have a proprietary system, one that is uniquely yours, one that you can go from beginning to end. Maybe it's a step-by-step system. Maybe it's a model that you're using. Maybe it's a framework, whatever it is. My proprietary system is my 7-step system for turning your passion into profits, and we're going through that today. Seeing, separating, speaking, sharpening, systemizing, sharing, and strengthening. That's my proprietary system. What does yours look like? The sixth step of the system is all about sharing, and you want to choose your right promotional materials. And I won't go into details about all the promotional materials that are out there, but suffice it to say that your image is very important. It portrays a vital information about your business. So you want to manage your company image to make sure that everybody views your company the way that you want it to be viewed. You need to make sure that it reflects your position in the marketplace, and you want to communicate an appropriate and consistent message with your promotional materials. Get the word out with publicity. You know, publicity obviously is one of those areas where it's free. So the more publicity you can get, the better it is. And if you notice in the day and age that we are in today, people used to want to get publicity on TV or radio or that sort of thing. Everybody wants to be on Oprah. But the thing about it is, with the Internet and with all of the resources that we have at our disposal now, we can do all kinds of publicity. You can do free press releases on the Internet. You can use social media. You can use all kinds of things to get the word out. There's blog talk radio. There's audio podcasts. There's so many ways that you can get the word out about your business. Expand your reach with networking. And it's really important, I think, to make sure that when you go out there that you have a goal for what you're doing. You know, I used to go out and network, and I would collect all of these business cards. I would come home. I'd look at the ones that, you know, I thought I resonated with. I'd follow up with a phone call and try to schedule some time with them. But at the end of the day, are you really making true connections with these people? I don't want a stack of business cards anymore. What I want is I want to go to a networking event. I want to connect with people. I want to be able to add value to their lives or business, and I want them to be able to do the same for me. And then come back and make those phone calls and have real connections. You know, schedule those lunch dates or coffees with these individuals and see if you can't develop real relationships. How about promoting your business online? You can do all kinds of things. We've already talked about social media, but there are so many resources out there now where you can either place ads or join networks or create profiles and forums. There's so many ways for you to promote your business online. And so it really is to your benefit to really take a look at what's out there and try to figure out how you can incorporate those into your plan. And how about effective use of advertising? This is either online or traditional advertising. There's things like Google AdWords. There are all kinds of tools like AdMe that will get you into search engines. Don't rely on just online, though. Think about some of the traditional things that you can do, like newspaper, radio, television, magazine, trade shows, mailing lists, billboards, giveaways. There's still quite a bit of activity that goes on. You just have to figure out how you're going to strategically use it in your business. Get more referrals. I think this is a key way. I know in my business as a life coach, speaker, and facilitator, I find that I get a lot of my business through referrals, either my past clients to me or people that I am connected with in my network will make referrals. This is a really good way to build up your business, to seek out referrals, and actually ask for them. If you have someone who is an ideal client or someone who is exactly the kind of person that you want to serve, you might want to talk to them and get some referrals from them as well. Putting your plan together. This is taking all the things that I talked about, your promotional materials, publicity, networking, advertising, and referrals, put that all together in a solid plan, a systemized plan that you're going to follow, because the more you plan and execute, the closer you'll get to your goal. If you kind of keep it all in your head and you're not really clear about what you're doing, what ends up happening is you don't do it. It just kind of falls by the wayside. So come up with your own personal customized plan for how you're going to get the word out, how you're going to promote your business. The final step in the system is strengthening, and that's all about leverage. And if you think about what leverage is, it's where you get a tool to help you do the job that you can't do by yourself. Think about trying to move a large boulder. You take a long stick or a long rod and you ease it under that boulder, and then you're able to lift that boulder. That's what it is when we strengthen our business by working with others. So strengthen it by forming teams. And I don't know if you're familiar with Bruce Tuckman. Back in 1965, he put together this whole thing about forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. That is something to look at. Like, you're forming your teams, what is that going to be like? This is where people are identifying their boundaries, they're testing those boundaries, and storming is where people are coming together, but there's probably some conflict. And norming is when they start to come together and feel comfortable with each other. Performing is where they are working together and actually doing the work. And adjourning is when the team kind of separates. So if you do have a team, what phase is the team in? And you have to understand what those phases are so that you know what to expect. Or if you don't have a team but you're trying to put a team together, you have to realize that these are the kind of things that happen. Working within teams can sometimes be challenging and difficult, and not all teams are high-performing teams. Not all teams work together well. So it really makes sense to think about how you're going to form a team and how to use some of that information about the phases of the team to enhance your current situation. Understand your team roles. The other piece of it is that everyone comes to the table with different skills and abilities. And some people have a natural bent to be the one doing the work, while maybe somebody else has a natural bent to organize and lead. And so you really have to understand what these people are. Some people are problem solvers. Some people are action takers. Some people are big thinkers. So you have to think about the person who's on your team. If you have someone on your team who's a big thinker and you actually need if you actually need a action taker, you might have a team that's ineffective because you're not going to go anywhere. I know in the past I teamed with someone, I'm a visionary, and I had a team member who was a visionary, and we sat and created great visions and not much execution. And so you really have to make sure that you put people on your team who are going to help to move you forward. Establish your support team. Most entrepreneurs are in business because they're independent spirits. And so it's really hard for us to, figure out how we're going to get that support. But sometimes you come to the point where you really can't move forward unless you establish a team and you help to kind of solidify that team so you can start to do some of the things that you want to do. So it's great to be in business for yourself, but it feels pretty bad to be in business by yourself. The most successful entrepreneurs have solid teams of supporters. These supporters are made up of both advisors and specialists, and the advisors guide them to make important decisions, and the specialists help them to implement these decisions. So think about your team and how you would want to have people on your team. Some people will be in an advisory role, and some people are people who are going to help you by rolling up their sleeves and actually getting the work done. So really focus on getting your support team together. And then consider joint ventures. If you form a joint venture, this is usually so that you can share the investment as well as the reward. So think about who in your network would be a good person to join forces with so that you can do some things together. It doesn't always make sense in every situation, but if you can find a good, solid joint venture partner, this is a form of leverage that's going to take you further than you thought possible. Get an accountability partner. I cannot tell you how important it is to have an accountability partner in your life. Whether you have someone who is a friend or someone who's in a formal arrangement as an accountability partner, it keeps you on track. It allows you to work together to get some things done, and it also ensures that when you say you're going to do something, that you actually follow through on it. I know for a fact that, I have used accountability partners for many, many years, and I'm guilty right now of having at least 5 or so accountability partners because the more, and you can have accountability partners for different areas of your life. So you may have one for business, you may have one for health, you may have one for spirituality, but to have these people that you can call on who are going to help to support you, who are going to encourage you and give you feedback, who are going to be cheerleaders for you is invaluable. Get the support of a mentor. Sometimes it's difficult to find a mentor, and it doesn't always have to be a formal arrangement. Sometimes it can be kind of a loose arrangement, but it's important to get someone who kind of has been there, someone who has a lot more experience than you, someone who can provide you with advice, someone who you can take your ideas to, and you can feel comfortable that this person has the wisdom to help to support you. And now when you're looking at a mentor, make sure that you always go back to what is it for them, because usually someone who's successful is busy. They want to help, but they want you to come from a place of what can you do for them as well? Where's the quid pro quo there? Or they want to see that when they are supporting you that it really is adding value. They don't want to be wasting their time. So really think about who in your life could be a great mentor, approach that person with a great solid plan, and then open up and share with them and ask for that help, because I'm sure they'll be willing to give it to you. Join or start a mastermind group. I think this is, again, one of the most important things that I have done in my business is to align myself with people who are going somewhere, who are doing something, who want the same things out of life as I do. I have actually, right now, I'm in 2 separate mastermind groups. One is more focused on high performance, and the other one is focused on business building. And, again, it's invaluable to sit around the table with a group of people who have common purposes, common desires, who are all going in the same direction. And it's really beautiful to watch and see everyone step up to a new level.